Was Tether created by the CIA to fund black market operations and things that they couldn't be connected to inside of worldly wars? Well, you're gonna love the topic of this video, because in the past month, we've seen currencies like the Japanese yen basically acting like a meme coin, experiencing high volatility as it reaches record high inflation rates. And with the other massive global currencies like the US dollar becoming worthless and less valuable, the term CBDC, or central bank digital currency, has been popping up quite a bit lately. A CBDC is a type of digital money that would be issued by a country's central bank and currently have been issued by 11 different countries. And I promise you, there is a real reason why we're talking about this. CBDCs are also under development in 79 other countries, which include major world economic players like China. And I promise you, this rabbit hole goes deeper than you will ever have thought, so make sure you pay attention to the end of this video. It's about to get juicy. Now, while the World Economic Forum has posted articles stating that CBDCs are not meant to replace a country's native currency, but rather complement it, many people have taken to social media expressing their concern over what a CBDC's issuance could mean for the people of the United States and the rest of the world for that matter. For example, imagine you made a post on X.com that was critical of the US government, and next thing you know, your bank account is frozen and you're not able to buy your groceries for your family. That's pretty friggin' scary, right? Well, that's the main concern over CBDCs, because they're super centralized and controlled, that they'll be used as a means to financially control the population rather than benefit them because of the complexities of smart contracts and the things that you can do with them. Now, the US government currently claims they are not planning on releasing a CBDC anytime soon. But what if that's all just a lie and the CBDC they're planning on using is already implemented and doing massive numbers? Coming in stage left, USDT, Tether. What if I were to also tell you that USDT could already be being used by the CIA to fund secret operations of the US government? Well, if you haven't picked it up yet, we're 100% going deep down that rabbit hole today. So stick around, because you're definitely not going to want to miss this. And if you haven't already, make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Boom! Bang on that notification bell. Comment anything that you want in the relevant sections. I appreciate it. Now, obviously, if you're watching this video, then you're probably already aware that USDT is a thing in the cryptocurrency markets. But if you're not, I'll take a brief second to explain what it is. USDT, or Tether, is the world's first stablecoin. A stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency whose value is pegged to another asset like fiat or gold to maintain a stable value. This one is USD. Tether specifically is pegged to the matching fiat currency or whatever country you are in when buying it, and is backed by Tether's reserves. By reserves, I mean US Treasury debt notes that aren't really backed by literally anything other than a depreciating United States dollar that they're just printing off so that they can sell this debt. Wild. Let me give you a point to ponder while you listen to the rest of this video, and I promise this point will make sense in the coming minutes. If nobody is buying the US debt anymore, and countries like China are actually calling in the interest and principal on that debt that they have bought in the past, then what is the US to do? Maybe find a new buyer for their debt themselves, or a shadow organization they can't publicly be tied to in an up-and-coming market that has hundreds of millions of users transacting trillions of dollars per year and day. Crypto might be the easiest way for the US government to not have to file bankruptcy like it has in the past multiple times. It is simple. Create a new market or buyer for your product and act like it is actually a means of exchange in a new emerging market and money transmission type. Obviously, since we can't sell the debt to countries anymore, the US can sure sell it to a company that says that the debt is backing their coin one-to-one via USD when clearly it isn't. But what type of company might that fit the narrative of? Say a stablecoin type of currency pegged to USD in a traditionally anonymous space like crypto. Now, instead of having to sell your debt to economically savvy countries that see your depreciating asset as a liability to them now, a liability that they could never see a payment on, you sell it to retail and unsuspecting participants in a new market that are not economically savvy and none the wiser, or wet behind the ears, all under the guise of a non-audited, pegged and phantomly backed stable coin currency inside of crypto. Wild. Now, this all sounds pretty legitimate. I know, right? So why are people speculating that Tether was created and being used by the CIA to fund secret government organizations or operations? Well, first we have to take a look at a paper that was published by the NSA back in 1996. How to Make a Mint, the cryptography of anonymous electronic cash. Now, the original idea behind this was that many Bitcoiners believed that Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin, was none other than the NSA or CIA or both. And that would make some sense due to the nature of the 1996 paper published by the NSA, and seeing as Satoshi's identity has never actually been revealed. Now, this is pretty suspicious in and of itself, I have to admit, but what does it have to do with Tether? Well, buckle in, folks, because it's about to get interesting. Tether was initially created as a safe way to buy cryptocurrency, as it doesn't fluctuate in value in the volatile way that most cryptos do, because it's tied to the US dollar, or pegged. But what happens if Tether mints 1 USDT, but they haven't deposited the dollar to back that 1 USDT? This means that you put a brand new dollar in circulation without the Fed actually having that dollar or printing that dollar. So it's very similar to the Federal Reserve, right? If there has been no dollar created to back that Tether, then there has to be some sort of offshore or private Fed being used to create these dollars. And this right here would be the very efficient way of money laundering. So here's where it gets interesting. There's over $100 billion in USDT currently in circulation. This would mean that Tether would need to have a reserve of 100 billion USD to back the USDT in circulation. But Tether themselves have literally never once been audited. So why is this? Well, according to Tether's CEO, Paolo Ardoino, none of the big four accounting firms in the US are willing to touch it, citing potential risks. Here's your sign. That's pretty weird, considering that if any other public crypto company in the US never got an audit, Gary Gensler would be licking his chops. So instead of getting an audit, Tether gets quarterly attestations from this small accounting firm called BDO Italia, an Italian accounting firm in Italy, a non-US based company. Odd. Now, take note of that statement because it's going to tie into what else I'm about to say. Tether has also never published a full report of their reserves since inception in 2014, and instead relies on these quarterly attestations to show that they indeed have money backing them. What's also interesting is that in 2021, Tether moved $37 billion of their reserves to an offshore bank called Capital Union in the Bahamas. Fishy. Now, while it's not out of the ordinary for large financial institutions to have offshore accounts, it would be convenient for the CIA if they indeed are using Tether to fund foreign operations. This is because, number one, the nature of crypto. It's anonymous to send money, and number two, this money couldn't be tracked back to the US government. And seeing as the accounting firm that publishes their quarterly attestations is not a US-based company, but instead an Italian one, it also looks quite suspicious. I think we can all agree upon that. It would also make Tether's involvement in funding foreign covert operations by the CIA hard to trace back to the US, so it would almost be a perfect mechanism for them. But anyways, let's get another example of the potential Tether-CIA relations. Remember the shooting that happened earlier this year in Moscow where ISIS essentially shot up a concert hall, or that's what they're saying? Well, when Russian authorities interrogated these people, they ended up claiming that they found out that these people had been funded by Ukrainian nationalists. And guess how they said they were paid? In crypto. And guess what cryptocurrency exactly they were paid in? It was none other than USDT. Ding, ding, ding. Is this all a coincidence? Could be. The US government has since dismissed these claims by Russia that the US and Ukraine were behind the Moscow shooting as none other than Russian propaganda. And that could be true. But whether or not that is the truth, we do not truly have any way of knowing that, so it's always going to be open to interpretation. But based on everything we've talked about today, can potentially raise a few questions. Another interesting thing about the potential ties to the US government and Tether, tying back to our talk in the intro of this video about Tether and the CBDCs, is this. Tether is actually one of the largest buyers of US Treasury, aka US debt. In fact, they own more US Treasury bills than Australia, Mexico, and Spain. And what is the sale of US Treasuries used for by the US government? Well, it is to finance the operations of the United States. As of September 2023, Tether owns over $70 billion worth of US Treasury notes, making them the 22nd largest holder of such in the entire world. And they did this in like 7-8 years. That's crazy, man. So let's backtrack a little bit and do some more simple math. Tether moved $37 billion to an offshore bank account in the Bahamas. Tether also has, almost to be exact, $72.5 billion of US Treasuries. And as of today, Tether itself is worth around $110 billion. So what's 37 plus $72.5 billion? That would land us at about $110 billion roughly. Now, we have the value of Tether. So does Tether use that $37 billion of actual cash in an offshore bank account to fund covert operations by the CIA that are untraceable to the US? Maybe. Is Tether buying tens of billions of dollars of US treasuries to help fund the US government's operations and make sure that the USD doesn't fail and that they have somebody to sell the debt to? Maybe. But actually, they pretty much explain the point of why they're buying the T-bills on the website. It helps finance the US government's operations. Well, they don't say that directly, but you get the point. So back to the intro where I talked about CBDCs. How does this play into CBDCs? Well, here's the point of CBDCs. The US dollar is gradually losing value over time, and eventually it will get to the point where you will have to go and bring a wheelbarrow full of cash to go buy a loaf of bread in 2050 if nothing is done to stop inflation. But what if we had a brand new currency, a CBDC? Then we would basically start all over again with a new financial instrument to buy stuff with. And seeing as Tether has all of these different ties to the US government, they buy a load of US debt, etc. That could potentially mean that Tether itself may just be the CBDC or shadow CBDC, I don't know, that the US is planning to use or something of that nature. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this video on the connections between the Tether, the CIA, and the US government / CBDCs today. But if you have more information, hit me up in the comments section. What do you think? Is Tether secretly a financial branch of the US government? Let me know what you think in the comments section. And always, if you like content like this, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Boom! Bang on that notification bell. Comment anything that you want in the relevant sections. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for showing up to this video. I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, everyone.